Everybody, welcome all of you. I would like to ask everybody first to take a seat so we can start as soon as possible. The second session of today will be about the role of Muslim women in politics, the contribution of Muslim women in policy making, and why it is so important, of course, for Muslim women to take the step towards politics. This second session will be with me as your chair. I'm Stanley David from Belgium, an opinion maker and Muslim rights activist. And I will host this session with this beautiful panel conversation with these amazing participants. I will let them introduce themselves. So Jennifer, we'll start with you first of all.
Assalamu alaykum. Is the microphone? Okay, I can hear myself now. Assalamu alaykum. My name is Jennifer Vanrawi. I'm from Finland. I'm here representing Suomen Muslim Forum, which is the Finnish Muslim Forum. And on behalf of them, speaking on this panel. I work in Helsinki as a child protection counselor in intensive child protection work, and currently I'm studying family psychotherapy and couple psychotherapy, which I implement in my child protection work. Inshallah, that's about all the things that I said.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Aisatu. I'm a student, a master student in diplomacy, but that's not the reason they asked me. Next to my studies, I'm also a politician. I got elected in 2019. I'm politically active since I was 16 years old, and I'm an elder woman in Antwerp, Belgium. Does everyone know what an elder woman is? Yes, because you're from Antwerp, of course. Okay. To compare it with something, it's like a local mayor, but not with the term mayor, but we can compare it with a local mayor. We're 50,000, so...
My name is Juanita Villamor. I'm working in Berlin. I'm working for the Muslim dialogue, it's an inter-religious dialogue. And I'm working there also coordinating and leading the Council of Imams in Berlin, and we are working a lot also with other organizations, especially also with women organizations, Muslim women organizations in Berlin.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. I don't know how I'm supposed to introduce myself. I'm just here on behalf of myself. I'm a local politician. I work in the Norwegian Welfare and Labor Administration with mental health and support employment. I'm fortunate to be a leader of a women's organization, and I'm in the board of the 8th of March committee. So that's me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As you can see, we are really four strong personalities in the room, all over Europe and from Europe. And I think it's very important that we discuss the themes that we have said already earlier, the role of Muslim women in politics, because of course politics reaches to all aspects of our life. What we study, what we eat, all these rules and laws are actually made by politicians themselves. So it's really important as a Muslim, and especially a Muslim woman, to be at the source of this policy making. So I would actually like to start with you, since you're an elderly man in the city of Antwerp, the second biggest city of Belgium. What was actually your intention to start with politics, and why do you think it is so important for Muslim women to participate in politics?
Okay, so my reason now is more ethical than my reason like 4 or 5 years ago. Let me explain. I got into politics when I was 16 years old. And I got into politics not because I wanted to change the world, because I didn't know anything about politics, but because someone told me that a person like me would never get into politics or never make it in politics. So I wanted to prove that person wrong, and that's why I got into politics. So my reason now is better. The reason why I'm in politics now, being in politics, you evolve, you see things, you go through things. You're in certain environments, and the reason why I'm going to politics right now is because the representation of people, of Muslims, people of color, it's not enough. Just to show what I mean by that, I'm in a city, Antwerp, we are 500,000 people, 500,000, and I am the first and the only elder woman who is Muslim, who is a woman, who is young, and who is black. I'm the only one and the first one. So we have a long way to go in a city of 500,000 people, where half of these 500,000 are people of color. We're not representing ourselves in politics. There's not a realistic representation of the people in the politics, and I'm proof of that. It's sad, but it's also empowering at the same time. Sad because I had to be the first, I had to go through all these challenges, and empowering because, okay, I know it's possible, so I'm just making a way for the people behind me. So my reason is just to prove that we can do it and to actually make a change. As a Muslim woman, as a person of color, and as a student, someone young.
It's actually very interesting because you said representation matters, of course. So, for example, Jennifer, regarding the speech of Aysatu, when she was saying that the representation of Muslim women in the political field or Muslim women with migration background is almost zero. How is this in Finland compared to Belgium?
The political situation in Finland right now is quite concerning. I'm not sure how many people are aware, but we have an extreme right-wing political party right now in office, and the amount of representation from minority groups, specifically Muslim minorities, I can't say, I think it's zero right now. So we're struggling to get representation, struggling to get our voices heard, and there are other agendas that sort of silence our voices, and aggressive political agendas that are also preventing us from participating in these types of discussions that are taking place.
But for example, if there are zero politicians with Islamic background or migration background, maybe for Juanita and Anita this can be a relevant question. You're not in politics, but you work close with politicians. It affects your life a lot. What are actually the consequences if there are no people with migration background in politics or with an Islamic perspective, and that actually has to govern the areas where you work in?
That's a question for me?
For both of you, you can start.
Well, I think it's quite obvious that if I have a pair of shoes and I need to walk for a long period of time, I'm going to be the one who knows where it hurts. So we need representation everywhere, not only in politics, but everywhere. We need to see representation in leadership, we need to see it in hospitals, in private sector, in public sector, everywhere. But we have to put ourselves out there as well, because no one is going to come knock at your door and say, hello, would you like to be the elder woman? No, you have to do the job.
In preparation to this panel, I had thought a lot about this topic because at the end I think it's a bit of a vicious circle, because if you don't have a presentation, the discrimination against you will raise. And if discrimination raises, you don't want to be a representative. And if you aren't a representative, then you will have the discrimination. So it's a vicious circle. We have also in Germany, we don't have many people, color, Muslim people, in our parliament, and it's really difficult because the policies that are made aren't made also for different minorities. And so the minorities are really struggling, and we are talking about Muslim women, we are talking about different challenges, intersectional struggling. And they are struggling with family, they are struggling in the Muslim community, they are struggling in politics. So it's really difficult. We don't have really time. I know from all of my really wonderful colleagues and activists, they have a lack of time to be there and to change something, because they have to change it in their own family, they have to change it in their Muslim community, they have to make a change in the politics. So it's really, really hard.
Okay. We see often also, as we already have seen the last years in Europe during political elections, that especially women, Muslim women were targeted a lot. And the problem is, if there is no representation, there is not only no voice for Muslims, but there is also a voice against it, because if they don't speak with you, they will talk about you. And we see, for example, especially with Muslim women, that the hijab is a political symbol that is targeted a lot by political parties. Well, actually, it's not a political symbol, it's a religious symbol, identity perspective. So for you, Aysatu, Was it a big barrier to go as the first hijabi woman into Belgian politics, and what do you think are other barriers that we should really fight for?
So I'm now the second one. We're two in Belgium, politicians that wear hijab in a country with how many? 11 million?
11 million.
11 million inhabitants, so we made it. We started great. It is a challenge. It's a challenge because my environment into politics, sorry to say it like that, but it's very male and white. All the meetings I go to, the mayors I talk to, all the same profile. So it's a double challenge. Not only is the first thing they see my skin color, but also my hijab, so I'm a double threat, you know, especially to the far right parties. So it's a big challenge, and I totally agree with you when you said you can't change things if you're not on that level or in that level. And Belgium is a great example. Where I'm from in Antwerp, we have a hijab ban for people wanting to work in government institutions. So because I got elected, I'm an exception. I can wear hijab, but other Muslim women who wants to work for the government, the Antwerp government, cannot wear hijab because they need to stay neutral. So that was a big shock for all the Muslims. That rule got implemented, I think, 2018 or maybe earlier, not so long ago. So it's difficult to every time I go to a meeting or I meet with people, I talk with people, the first thing I know is that they will never accept me. And some people even tell me that, which I appreciate that they're honest. But it's a challenge knowing you're going somewhere or you're trying to make a change when you're literally the only one trying to make it on that level. So it's a big challenge. It's one of the big challenges in Belgium. So how can we change things? How can we change the hijab ban? How can we change the fact that we can't slaughter halal in Belgium? How can we change the fact that there is a debate going on right now in Antwerp, in Belgium, about should a housewife stay a housewife or not? So some politicians try to implement a rule for housewives that they should work and help with the economy and everything, and they shouldn't say housewives. So from the moment that they enter our personal space, I think we have to say no, we can't accept that, and we can only change it while going into politics. Just how many times we scream or we tell them no, we don't agree upon that, they won't listen. So that was, let's say, the thing that I'm going for, like trying to help within the policies and the institutions.
It's actually remarkable, as you have said, that Muslim women in Europe, and especially in politics, are in a very difficult situation because the extreme right wing fights you because of your political identity, which is not a political identity, of course, but a religious identity. Mm-hmm. And some left wing parties, they also fight you because they see you as oppressed, as they have to liberate you, which is also not true, of course, because you choose by yourself for it. So Jennifer, maybe this question for you: do you think we should also put more focus in including civic activism?
Yes, I do think so, and sort of at the grassroots level, and then working our way up from there, finding ways to impact the community from within, raising awareness on political matters and how you can influence political decision making. And I can't speak for every single ummah out there, but in our community in Finland, I think the lack of understanding, the know-how of political decision-making, so increasing the sort of the civil activism, I think is an excellent way to sort of try to influence policy-making and understanding how it influences our daily lives. It's in our schools, it's in our homes, it's in our wallet. So I think it's an important step in the direction.
For example, Amina, Jennifer, Juanita, and Aisatu are now from Belgium, Germany, and Finland, countries of the European Union. You're from Norway, you said. Norway is unfortunately not yet a member state of the European Union. But how is the policy making in Norway? Do you think that because, for example, we can have a strong civic activism with the European Union, the policy making of the European Union is very strong and very high. How does this happen in Norway?
I think the challenge that I see the most, I can only talk for the local environment that I'm in. What I see is I see mosques and volunteer organizations doing an amazing job, but I also see that we lack the implementation of understanding, of participation, transfer to our youth and also our adults. A lot of people, unfortunately, doesn't really have an understanding about how these things work, and that can sometimes result what you don't know a lot about, you get scared of. So we need to take charge and bring it back to our mosques and our youth and our women and our men in order to find these young ladies and young men who wants to participate in politics and to develop the democracy. But we have to start, like you said, at grassroots level, and that's the only thing that I strongly miss. Even though there's a lot of good work going on, we can do better.
We often see also in politics that a lot depends on the municipality where you live. Sometimes there are political parties, even if they have the same party line, their way of governing in cities quite differently because of the circumstances. So for example, in Juanita in Germany, which is a very big country, a lot of big cities, how does it happen there? Are there more challenges or less challenges with parties that apply a different strategy in this?
I think I just want to make one point. I want to agree with you, completely agree with you, and to say also this is something we are trying now. We have to search for allies and grassroots. And I think family men and other people in the community are also in the responsibility to give space. I think we can speak also in the Muslim community, we can speak about women being representative, women being into action without letting them be also in the community interaction, without letting them have space, without letting them have a voice. So this is a point we are trying now also to, in my work, to bring this with the imams. So I think I'm the feminist part in this in this group, always to bring up the women perspective and to say, if we are thinking about to make a representation, we have to think about our women. So this is really a big and needed point. And in Germany, we challenge the same problems as in many other countries. But I was really surprised about the ban in your country, because we in Germany, we had the ban, I think the so-called Neutralitätsgesetz, the Neutrality Act, which was made, I think, 2005. 2005 came out, and there were many women, again, it's said that women can't wear a headscarf in government and public positions, and they can't work as a teacher, which is really hard because a lot of women study for that, and they can't go to work. So it was really a big question what they could do. And now, and this is really a good message, now in March, the ban has been vanished by the Berlin Senate, and now a lot of Muslim women are now waiting to start working. So it's a new act now, because the Constitution of Germany said in 2018, which is really hard to think about. The Constitution said 2018 the ban is not, it's illegal. You can't ban a woman just because a religious symbol from their workplace. And it has been now 5 years until the politics act to this law. So I think it's really hard also in Germany.
If you look also worldwide, you will see that the participation of Muslim women in politics is increasing a lot. For example, the best example is Halima Jacob in Singapore, who is the president, a practicing Muslim with hijab, who became the president of Singapore. If you look to Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, she has been the longest prime minister of Bangladesh, also practicing Muslimah. We see in Europe, for example, that you have now Hamza Yusuf, who became recently the prime minister of Scotland. But in some way or another, we see that it's still quite difficult for a lot of Muslim women to reach that level in Europe, even while actually the European system should be more accessible. So I said to, what do you think, what is actually your frustration since you're in politics and that you see that it's not that easy as maybe people show off to the outside world?
My frustration, I have a whole list. No, I'm kidding. I don't have a whole list. Trying to stay positive here. But my frustrations, let's say, is it's not a frustration, but it's sad that you enter a room, like I said earlier, or a space or an environment when you don't see people who look like you, or you don't see people who will understand you. The first problem is that there are not a lot of women. That's the first thing. When you enter, mostly I'm the only woman there. That's also a barrier. And then you see not a lot of Muslim women, so it's a bit higher. Muslim women, I'm alone, and then Muslim women of color. So it keeps on going. So it's not a frustration, but it's kind of sad that we're 2023 and we still aren't developed. And we developed, I don't mean economically, but I mean us Muslim women, people of color, Muslim women of color, we're not in that type of environment. It's very sad. And I don't blame Muslim women of color, of course not, because the environment isn't open to us. It's not open to us. My first month of being a politician, of being responsible for 50,000 people, there were times I went home and I was like, okay, I'm stopping. I'm not going to politics again. I'm stopping right now. I don't need that. And there are times where I see something happening or changing, and then that motivates me. So there are lots of fluctuations still now as well. And these are the barriers. So the space you go into as a woman of color and Muslim woman, the space is not Muslim proof, let's say, or woman proof. So that's a big frustration, because every time you go in, you have to adapt yourself. And the thing is, I just learned, and maybe a year ago, that I don't have to change myself to fit into these spaces. If it's time for prayer, I just go and pray. They have to understand, they don't have a choice. If I need to do something that's important for me, I'm going to do it. I'm still staying respectful and I'm still explaining it, but you see that it's not that the environment has to change. It's the environment, it's not an open environment, and because it's not an open environment, these women, these Muslim women, don't dare to go in there. So it's not their fault, it's the fault of the system that's not open to types of people or religions.
I totally understand. So of course you can comment with.
Yeah, I think another one of the challenges is that in addition to attempting to join a political campaign, the media bias, cherry picking which kind of Muslim is allowed to be represented. So we have practicing Muslims who want to pray, wear the hijab. That's seen as extreme. These are basic fundamentals in a Muslim's life. We wear the hijab, we pray, we eat halal food, we go to the masjid, we celebrate Eid, we fast Ramadan. These are very basic principles and foundations of Islam that are misunderstood, misrepresented. So a Muslim woman will have to change her complete identity. Which one of these pillars of Islam am I going to now sacrifice so that I can try to make a change for the Muslim community? And so the media, the political parties will cherry pick, this is the right kind of Muslim because she doesn't wear the hijab. I don't know if she prays, but at least she's not wearing the hijab. But she's a person of color, so okay, that's an advantage. So the equal opportunities are not the same for us as they are for the other majority community of the women who managed to get into politics. Needless to say, it's still a man's world in the political area. So already, we have, as you mentioned, Aisatu, that being a woman of color, and a Muslim. So there's a lot of barriers to break through, a lot of glass ceilings to get through. So it's not an easy path.
And it's not that long time ago that I started to wear hijab, so I felt like I was the excuse. Do we say it in English? That excuse of so?
Let's say the excuse.
The
excuse migrant, like you said.
Yeah, the excuse migrants. I don't know if it makes sense, but like I fit it into their
That they
because-
used you just actually to express that they are for churches with the migration.
Yes, I didn't dare to ask, can I go pray? I just shut my mouth and I listened, and that's the people they need who just say yes and listen, and they're scared of the other people because they stand strong in their feet, in their shoes, and you're totally right. I totally agree with what you said.
I also said that Amina wanted to comment something.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you. I just feel like we have a term that we're using today that's called Muslim woman, and I'm like, can we really use that term? The only thing for me that means that we all believe in Islam, we are Muslims, but there's a diverse amount of people within that term. Number one, and number two, I don't think that we can, and I'm not saying that anyone did, but we can't really link wearing the hijab necessarily to being practicing. You can be practicing and be working on wearing your hijab, for example. I find it a little bit, we need to bring that up. At the same time, we know as women, as you were saying, it's a little bit larger than only Muslim women, it's women in general. We have a lot of statistics that show that women still do a lot of extra work compared to men, even though men are great and they go to work as much as ladies. But we have a lot of numbers saying that we do a lot of extra work when it comes to household chores, kids, volunteering at different arenas, and as well working, not all of us, but some of us. So I think if we want to be represented, we have to make sure that when you come home, for example, my first, when you go to the city council, you go away for a couple of days, and where they teach you how the processes work, the democratic processes, and so on. And behind me there was a right-wing person sitting, and he kept pulling my hijab in a room full of politicians, and no one said a word. And I just ignored him 4, 5, 6 times. At the end, I turned around and I looked at him and said, I have a 2-year-old son at home if you want to come and play. I mean, that's what we're facing. And also we had threats. I'm sure all of us had. We're going to find you, we're going to take you, look like an easy person to catch and go off with. I mean, but then it means a lot to come home to a society and a fellowship and a family that supports your choices and sees the effort that you're trying to make for the ummah. And I think we could work on that.
Mm-hmm. You said something very interesting about being threatened several times. We see that Islamophobia is on the rise in Europe due to the extreme right wing, who is very strong these days. Juanita, no personal issues, but Germany is the leading country, unfortunately, at the moment. Do you remark this in Germany, that the Islamophobia is strong and that it makes it much more difficult for Muslim women to participate in the democratic process?
Yes, of course. This is a short answer, of course. You see anti-Muslim racism. I don't like it to call, I have really a problem with the word Islamophobia. I have a problem with the word of phobia about people. So for me, so I hope you are finding the man going to say about anti-Muslim racism, because we are dealing with really hard anti-Muslim racism in different spaces. We are dealing with it in the media, we are dealing with it in the politics, we are dealing with it in the society, in schools, and so many different levels and spaces, and all of them interact with the other, and this is a big problem. I can just tell you a little story from my work now. We had, and this wasn't the women, but this was from the imams from our council, we had an article last year. And I just want to point out how the one interact with the other with politics. We got funding from the Synod, and at first when this article came out, the first thing that happens was the court came to us and say, how can we get the money? And actually the politics were there. It was made politics about the I didn't say the word, about what we are doing. So, and we see that in a lot of times when people want to act, when people want to do something, they get attacked by media, they get attacked by politics, so they are really frightened. They are frightened to go out. They, in the community, they say, oh, this mosque, why are you doing so many work with other people? Do you know, at the end, the media will come after you. At the end, people will come after you. And then you have also a big problem when you look at the families. Because if you have active women who want to be active, who want to be representative, who want to work also in politics, they got them from their community. Said, do you want really to go out there? Do you want really to be threatened in this way? Do you want to be a threat for everyone of your family? And then there goes the narrative from your family is also has a risk. Your kids, and always when we talk with women or told women, they told always the family and the kids. So, and this is really hard for them to go out there. And of course you have the usual, and it's really hard to say usual, the usual attacks on the streets. Discrimination on the streets, to get spied on, to put the hearts cover. Things I think the most of my friends and colleagues had to deal with it.
It's actually also very remarkable because if you look, Europe had appointed some months ago a specific person to actually battle and combat anti-Muslim hatred. And the reason behind it is actually because some European member states don't give so much credibility to Muslim hate or Islamophobia. They say it's actually nonsense, it's something invented. I said to, what is your experience in politics when it comes to Muslim hatred?
My experience, mostly microaggressions. What do I mean by that? I never been through something like of violence or being attacked like other women that face these problems. But mine is different because I'm treated differently until I pull out the I'm a politician card, and then I see difference. So on purpose, when I go somewhere, I don't say that I'm a politician because I don't want them to change their attitude, and that's for real. That always, everywhere I go, they change the way of treating me until they know, okay, you're a politician or you're someone that is.
But to go more concretely, why it is so difficult in Europe to battle Islamophobia or Muslim hate, and it seems much more easier to battle anti-Semitism, for example? Why there is this discrepancy? Because this is a feeling that a lot of Muslims have in the room, also outside in local communities. Why do you think this feeling is there?
Because we don't have the spaces, the spaces to do it. Not that it's easy, but if you don't think that you can do it because people don't allow you to do it, then it can't happen, and you will also set your mind that I will never be able to change that, so I'm not even going to try, or I'm going to change it in my own bubble or my own environment. So I don't think we get the opportunities to change it. The fact that there is no one representing us in higher politics because I'm at a local level, that fact says enough about can we change things. If we have no one, how will we change it?
Mm-hmm. For example, yesterday when we went for a dinner in Christiansen, one of the people of the community of Christiansen told us that they tried to burn the Quran in the center of Christiansen. And very strangely, some people, they call this freedom of expression. So maybe, Amina, this is for you. Of course, I think freedom of expression is a totally different perception than burning a Quran. But as a Muslim woman in Norway, do you have the feeling that people don't take it seriously when you speak about Muslim hatred, especially as a Muslim woman with hijab?
There are some discussions going on whether freedom of speech or where they meet and the protection against hate, where's that border? And I think we need to explore that more, and that's already going on. But I do feel that when we are being clear and we gather and we raise our voices, that we are heard. Where I live in Arendal, we have something called like a local, actually it's a national conference of politics, once a year, and all the politicians from all over the country come down to have panel debates and discussions and such. And you have to book a stall in order to stay there and to give information about your organization or your political party or so on. So we had a couple of years ago a far right-wing, I don't know what to call them, group who wanted to come, and they were burning the Qur'ans. They were saying that Muslims should be killed, that politicians who allowed Muslims into boards should be filed in the system of law. And they have been showing some scary, offensive behavior in front of the mosques. So we made a rally and we gathered. First we were like 50 persons. And we were like, we're not accepting this. They can't be allowed to come to our city and to spread their words like this. We need to protect our youth and our kids. And then 2 years later, obviously it became bigger and larger and more people added to it, and it became a big thing and media and so on and so on. And now they're not allowed to participate because of their behaviors and hate speech towards Muslims. So I do feel that we are taking it seriously, but we have to fight it in a serious way. I think that's also a core. We have to stand together and to fight it in a serious manner, in a serious way, to be taken seriously. So unfortunately, sometimes they are met with youth, mainly, who react the same way as they're acting. I'm guessing everyone knows what I'm talking about. The last year here in Kristiansand, they managed to cooperate with the police and the local politicians and the mosque, and they made a successful demonstration against them, but in the most perfect way. So they didn't reach their point of showing how barbaric the Muslims are reacting to their hate speech. So it works, but we have to unite.
Mm-hmm. So actually what you say is don't fight fire with fire, but fight fire with water, because we should always act better. But this is actually also a theological point of view. So maybe Juanita, over to you. A lot of people have the perception that theologically viewed, a Muslim woman cannot participate until a certain level in politics. For some Muslim women, it's just actually a motivation to do it because of their Islamic faith. So what is the role of imams and how the Muslim women in politics actually see this when it comes to their Islamic faith? Is this a booster or is this actually a neutralizer?
I think it's really difficult when we look at the community. I just can't talk for Germany, but when we look at the community and we have really wonderful, active women there, but there are only a few. They are active 4 or 10, but it could be more. And why could it be more? Because they are not encouraged to do so. They are not encouraged also religiously. And I think there we have to point, there we have to go to the mosque, to the imams, to the people who are encouraging them, who can encourage them. But if they don't think about the problem, if they don't see the problem, they can do nothing about it. And so I see this is really an important space now that we have to address the imams also, and to tell them, please give the families the opportunity to bring their women forward, to help them, to encourage them religiously, that they are able to go, that Islamic theological thoughts bring them to go, to be active, to change something in the community, and to be not only women, to the whole community. They have to be active, to participate. It isn't an issue only for women. The whole community isn't really active when it comes to elections or something else. So the theological leaders, the imams, the women, the sheikhs are really asked to do something about it, to bring knowledge, to bring religious knowledge to them. So, and I think this is really a hard point in Europe, because a lot also of working imams came there, I think, in the 70s. In Germany, there weren't imams when they have been in their country. So they had to become imam. There were need to have someone. And they become imam, and there is also for a lot of them a lack of knowledge. they got knowledge in the last 30 years because they had to. But now this is the problem we are facing in Europe. We have a real misconception of religious practices and of the tradition, of the Islamic tradition. And I think this is the way we have to handle it. At the first part, we have to talk about the misconceptions also in the community itself. And then when we got that, we can also go to other points and to other spaces.
It's a very good point that you raised, that actually the whole community should participate into this field. For example, the last speaker of the first session, Tabitha, gave actually an example in Denmark where people did a march regarding the freedom of choice, regarding the hijab. Even in Belgium, to give a small anecdote, there has been a university that decided to cancel the hijab and any religious symbol that could not actually have any access anymore to university. So what happened was that Muslim women went on the street, but also the mosques and the communities and the men were actually participating, which made it one of the biggest marches in Belgian history when it comes to religious case for court. 1 month and the university decided to stop actually their law that they had made. So Jennifer, do you think this is something that we should more focus on in Europe? Or for example in Finland locally, to raise the status of Muslim women, that the community should be more active?
Absolutely. I think there are very active Muslim women in the Finnish community working in various sectors, but I think again, the ability to influence certain policies, maybe even getting into a position of a political position, I think does require motivation, some sort of education on how to go ahead and move forward with these things.
All right. I think we had a very inclusive panel conversation for today. But of course, we cannot end the panel conversation without interesting and important questions from the public. So I would like to ask the people who have some questions or are interested in asking some questions to raise your hand. I already see 1, 2, 3, 4. So if there is a microphone, yes. Let's start with the sir in grey over there. He was first.
I think I'll have to take this question.
Hello to everyone, I am Angel from Albania, originally from Kosovo. I thank you very much for your opinions and all the things that you are dealing with in Europe and all other countries where you are living. I want only to say 2 things and answer the question. For me personally, it's important to know that not all Muslim people have the same views on the wearing hijab in different places. They have different opinions, and we must accept this. For example, in Kosovo and in Albania, we have a history of religious tolerance and coexistence, and the Muslims, Christians, and other religious communities live side by side on our countries. The wearing of hijab, like other forms of religious expression, is generally viewed as a personal choice and a right in these societies. On the other hand, we have some states that is mandatory wearing the hijab in some Muslim majority countries such Iran, Saudi Arabia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, etc. And it's often a result of government policies on societal norms that are based on religious and cultural beliefs. And my question is, like Muslims that ask for their rights in European countries, Norway and other countries, are you advocating in countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia to to make easy the visiting of European people there, in the sense of even the foreign people must wear hijab when they go there, because there are some restrictions that are heavy, and the European people don't have in their culture when they go there. In sense of, are you advocating for these rights for all? Because if we are asking to Europe for inclusion, we must maybe to ask even to other parts for inclusion. And we have the equality in this case. For example, if we take Albania, for example,
for me is the best example in all Europe and Kosovo. The people live with the same rights. If you want to wear hijab in public spaces, you can wear hijab in public spaces. If you want to pray, if you want to put a cross in your chest, it's your choice. But maybe it's time, and the question you understand is time to fight or to lobby about the equality all around the world, and maybe not only to Europe. Thank you.
So what is your concrete question?
Concrete question is, are the group of Muslims in Europe advocating even for the rights of European, for example, journalists that go there to work and they must wear the hijab? Yeah. Did you understand the question?
I actually still don't understand the question, but maybe one of the panelists can answer you.
I'll try to keep my answer short so the other sisters can also respond. Thank you for your question. I would like to remind you that we're here discussing European Muslim women in a democratic Europe and our ability to practice our religion and how it prevents us from impacting our daily lives. I'm sure there are human rights organizations that are trying to influence the policies in Iran, Afghanistan, etc., but that's not what we're here to discuss today. We're trying to advocate for our rights to practice our religion and also be an inclusive member of the European Democratic Society. That's my
Well, that was the thing that I was going to say. But no, just briefly, like I understood your question is maybe you think that Europe, everything is good, well, and perfect. The fact that we're sitting here talking about these problems is because I don't have the freedom to pray. I go hide to pray. I don't have the freedom to wear hijab everywhere I want because there is a ban. I don't have certain freedoms, and that's what I mean. So if you're giving the same energy to Iran, of course, everyone needs to decide for her or himself what he wants to do. But in a developed economical state or continent like Europe, it's a problem that we don't have these freedoms, and that's what we're trying to explain here, or that's what we're trying to give. But I totally agree with what you said. You said it very well. But I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you so much for your both points. I just want to tell you a bit of something. But we have a comedian in Germany. He says always, he tells always, always when it comes to women's rights in a room, there's always one white man talking about, and what about men? They are also getting oppressed sometimes. And I love this comedian because I think it shows really well, there are many problems, yes. There are problems in other countries, there are problems all over the world for other women, for other groups, for other minorities. And they are also important, but this is not our topic. This is not the topic now. And if we always let us go away from our topic, we will never achieve anything. So I think we should focus on what we are doing. I think your point is really important, but you have to focus when you want to achieve something.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a kind of, for me, I feel it's like work of opposition. We are here today to discuss something regarding Muslim women. And it's not like we have a lot of places to lift our issues like we're doing here today. But I appreciate your question. And sometimes I feel like people are looking at human rights and religious rights as a cake. If I take a piece, it's less for you. But that's not how it works. If I have my rights, it doesn't take all your rights.
If I may add very briefly about the comment on Muslims not wearing hijab, there is no division between Muslims wearing hijab and not wearing hijab. The only thing we were trying to tell is that the Muslims not wearing hijab are easily accepted in politics. I can talk about that because I see that in my environment. I talk to people about that, so I can tell that because it's a fact. That's the only thing that we're trying to state. There is no division between hijab wearing Muslim and a non-hijab wearing Muslim. All Muslims, we all support each other. So Just to be clear, just to say that.
I think that was a very solid answer. The second question, I saw a lot of hands. We will go to Dr. Al-Qadri.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Umar Al-Qadri. I'm the chairperson of the Irish Muslim Peace and Integration Council. First and foremost, thank you so much, ladies, for that insight. I just wanted to make a quick comment about the previous person. You see, yes, there are countries where women are imposed a particular dress code, but it is absolutely wrong for us to paint everybody with the same brush. You mentioned two countries, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, that women are somehow forced to wear a particular dress code. That's not true. There are 58 Muslim majority countries in the world. To assume every country is like Iran or is like Afghanistan is very, very wrong. Please, let's not do that, because that is exactly what fuels Islamophobia. That is exactly what creates this idea that Muslims are backwards and we need to, give them freedom and democracy. So let's not go that way. Please, when we say in certain countries, it's just one or two countries. In the majority of the Muslim world, Muslim women choose themselves if they want to wear the hijab or if they don't want to wear the hijab, and it's their choice. Let women decide what they want to do. Coming back to the panel, one thing that really struck me personally is we are talking about the right of religious freedom, which is part of the European Human Rights Convention, Article 17. We see it being completely overruled. We see that it's completely being ignored, because your religious freedom, as someone who is, in the public eye, is completely ignored. If you can't wear the hijab, you cannot express really your religion. So, are there any discussions taking place with the European Commission, with the European, with Brussels, in terms of what can be done to make sure that all countries, whether it's Belgium, it's any other country, abide by those, by the Article 17, which protects religious freedom, really? And that's exactly the issue here. I think the issue is religious freedom. And is there any discussion happening like that between yourself and the European Commission? If not, I think that really should happen. Thank you.
For your contribution. We still have time for one or two questions. I saw here in the front also several hands. I would like...
This guy was first.
At the end?
There afterwards.
Yeah, no problem. Okay.
راح أكتب باللغة العربية مع الاسم.
Okay.
ممكن ترجمة.
As follows. I recently came to Europe around 6 years ago, so I don't have the experience like everyone else, but according to my experience, the man in this country or in this continent needs his rights, not otherwise. The ladies, they have more rights than the women. Wherever I go, I see the ladies that they have more rights than the men. Point number two is for the ladies, the Muslim ladies who came to politics, and they have the power and the empowerment to change the facts on the grounds. I know that you are facing both the political issues to tackle this as well as to protect Islam. So what is your role? How do you do that? Do you have the possibilities to use, for example, the medias to broadcast something about Islam, about your culture in different languages? Thank you.
Okay. I think maybe Aisatu shortly you can answer the last question.
I will take the microphone over there. We have one more question.
Okay. What are the best tools you can use to develop?
I do use my social media because it's mine. I can post whatever I want, even though the political party likes it or doesn't like it. And I do post in different languages. Myself, I speak 6 languages, and I post in every 6 of this language. So if someone adds me on Instagram, sometimes you will understand something, and sometimes you won't understand something. Because I have different identities. I have my African one, my Muslim one, my female one, my like students, younger me one. So I post every time I post something of one of these identities, and I post it in another language. So I do vibe with my social media. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. Amina, just a small comment.
I think I picked up something from the first part that I can dwell over. I don't agree that men doesn't have the rights, or that women have stronger rights than men. However, we do have some statistics that says something about youth, especially young boys and young men, regarding suicide rates, mental health. So there, even though I don't agree with the equation that you're making, I do think it's a subject that we need to take seriously. These young men and our youth, our kids, deserve that we take that subject with us to our communities and work towards it. And you talked a little bit about the mosques and the role of the imams, how it changed somehow. And I see a lot of good imams and mosques. I do wish that we take that perspective with us into our communities and work more for these young men, without saying that they lack rights.
Okay. Last question, please. Okay. One more last question, please.
Hi everyone. Assalamu alaykum. My name is Rahmatullahi and I'm from CV Albania. I'll try to be very quick and short because I'm the only person standing between you and the lunch. So I'll not make a question, I'll just make a comment. Thank you very much for this event. Really wonderful, helpful, exchanging views, exchanging experience, exchanging ideas, debates, and why not? We are different, but we all live in one single world, which is Earth. In Albania, being a Muslim, I'm a Muslim. I am not black as you see, because for us, having a skin color, it doesn't matter anything. For us, in Albania, having a religion different from your friend, it doesn't mean anything. We all live in peace and love together. We know that either you're a Christian or you're a Muslim, the religion teaches you to respect, love, and tolerate. So that's the most important things that we do in Albania. That's how we understand the democracy in Albania. When it comes to Muslim community in European Union, I believe, my personal view, it is not the Muslim community job to show the rest of European Union that we are good, that the Muslims are good. We have the only task for us is to show the best of a human being, the best of Islam. It is the duty of the other religions and other communities to understand and the way that they want to be accepted to accept the Muslim community. So with this, I will conclude. Thank you very much for everything, and really nice pleasure being here. Thank you.
Is there somebody who wants to comment on this? Jennifer? Okay.
I would like to say, I mean this with kindness. I think it's a very naive assumption as a white male to speak on behalf of minorities, colored, religious minority individuals, saying it does not matter. It matters very much. And that's what I want to
Very short. I just wanted to say, this is the perfect world that you described. Let's all move to Albania first of all. Mashallah. No, but I just wanted to say I agree if you live in Albania, because the impact of the politicians, of the Europeans on our personal life is too big. We can't wear hijab, like I said. We can't slaughter halal meat. We can't wear what we want to wear. So if the impact comes in our personal life, I do think that we need to step up. I do think that we need to talk and make a statement and not accept it and show that we need those things, that it's part of our identity. So I do think we need to be active, because it has too much impact.
Okay, one more last thing, no problem.
Because I think the one question wasn't responded about the European Union. You asked for if there are some ideas to share. I think that most of women and other minorities are now really hard, challenging in their own countries, but they can't always go to the European Union and say, because they have their own legal system. So for these topics, but something I learned in the last few years is a lot of people tell always to me, rights are not always a gift. Rights are not always given to you just as a gift. You have to do something to get it. You have to earn it. You have to work for it. So go out, be active, and earn your own rights, and then they will remain. They will be your rights because you have to did something for that. So this.
Thank you very much. I think it's now time to go over to the thank part of this panel conversation. First of all, thanks for the lot of responses and the reactions. I can see that this panel conversation caused a lot of emotions with some people, which is good because by communication we can understand each other and we can clarify things. Maybe before ending, just some relevant information. There came more people than registered. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. So this is a good sign. But because of this, unfortunately, the disadvantage is that there will not be enough chicken halal wraps or vegan wraps. So for people who are fasting, maybe it's a good idea to make hasanat. Otherwise, I think you will have to figure it out yourselves. Another important part is the people who want to pray their namaz or their salat for Dhuhr prayer. My colleague Kim over there will lead you to the prayer room. And for the rest, I want to thank everybody of you. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy the day and leave